The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death. I will dwell in the house of what I am forever. What's happening? Benton here. Managed to get loaded yesterday evening. Rolling out of the truck stop. Slept in a little bit. So my 10 hours was up. 15-minute pre-trip, and then it took me about another 10 minutes to get ready. I'm leaving a Love's. Could have gotten fuel, but I'll do that later. Since we have enough for now. Headed to Massachusetts. Yeah. General vicinity of Boston, I believe. Tooth hurts a little bit. I managed to strike it with my flashlight in my mouth. That happens every once in a while. From experience, it most likely will stop hurting at some point in the near future. That was last night, actually. That occurred. That occurred. Little blockage of the throat chakra, feels like. I trust that this broadcast will serve to assist unbelief. Got poisoned yesterday by either this truck, or some fumes got in the cab. I think maybe it was the exhaust, the emissions, the burning off of the diesel particulates. I'm quite sensitive to smells, rather, fumes and such. So perhaps that had something to do with it. Almost pulled the trigger on a new cell phone last night. Couldn't quite bring myself to it. I probably would have, except sometimes if I order to an Amazon locker, it's like 25, I don't know, maybe 25% of the time, if it's a next day or a 2-day thing, it doesn't make it. Now that Christmas is over, probably it would, but still decided pass for now. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the replay crew. Yeah, tooth is bothering me. At some point, I'm going to end up having to go to the dentist. It's funny because one can still get their teeth fixed in California, although for free. However, some of that is location dependent. One thing about actually paying one's own money, I think it makes it more likely to get proper quality care, right? I think so. Actually, I forgot. I got this new herbal toothpaste. It's probably the herbal toothpaste. Good pain. Yeah, that's probably what it is. Man, if anybody's seen my post tab, I posted a picture I took at a Walmart parking lot in the Atlanta area. These normies, man, these NPC normies. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on, but I have to scope these Walmarts out ahead of time so I don't get stuck trying to park the rig so I can shop. And so the only place I could really park, my tractor ends up kind of angled, and it's as close as I could get to one of those cart corrals without blocking it, because I'm considerate. And it was, my trailer's almost blocking part of the aisle to drive through there, but there's plenty of room for people to get by. Same thing with my tractor. It's like I'm taking up as much space as I can. Next thing I know, I look up and these people in a white Ford Raptor have pulled in front of me, and they've angled their truck the exact same angle as my tractor, and they've parked it to where it's like it's almost as close as they could get to the next cart corral without blocking it. And I'm just looking at this like, what are these people doing? And I'm like, oh, they're normalizing the way I park. Okay. And it turned out they were, I guess, waiting around to meet up with somebody they had somebody in their truck that was getting in another truck, apparently, a pickup truck, light truck. And then they all left. But it's like, yo, man, pull into I don't care if they pull into a parking spot. But there was absolutely no advantage or reason for them to do what they did. It did not benefit them in the least. Now they weren't my way, so that was neither here nor there. It was they mimicked the way I was parked as much as physically possible. They found the exact type of space with the cart corral at the same angle, and they placed their pickup truck at the same angle. Everything was the same. Just I got a big ass trailer behind me. This tractor's a lot bigger than their pickup. It's crazy, man. And this is what they do. This is important to realize. This is just what they do. If you watch them, observe them, keep your eye on them, the NPC normie horde rushes in everywhere to immediately, seamlessly, and nearly perfectly normalize all phenomena that are not incongruous. Meaning, as long as it doesn't even have to make sense. It just has to be, as long as it's conceivably congruent with the world as they know it. It's total insanity. And, this is a big part of the title for the stream, which is that which makes an enemy of what I am. And what that is this world, this system of things. The idea of the system is stacked against the individual, right? Well, individuals who are possessed of the proverbial Nancy Pelosi MS-13 spark of divinity, aka this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Absolutely. And furthermore, the lightning. No, it's not light. That's fine. So the idea of unconscious beings, or forgive them for they know not what they do. So even if they have that, that connection very deep down, if they're not aware of it, if they can't access it most of the time, effectively, why would this realm need to attack them, right? And then, of course, the normalizing sort of keeps everybody in line in a way also. And I've talked about it, going into Walmart first thing in the morning, and there's nothing around. I'm the first person to go through the self-checkout. And the next thing you know, here's some guy, he's come along. There's all these different self checkouts to choose from, and he, gets close to me. And at a certain point, I can just feel that he's vampirically just draining off of me. And so I look over. It's almost like he's waiting for me to start scanning items so he can start scanning items. And so at a certain point, I'm like, fuck this. I'm just going to wait, watch what this guy does. And so, he paused and hesitated, and eventually he started initiating the scanning, but you could tell he didn't like it. And, this is before I had figured out this normalizing. And looking back on it, he's normalizing me checking out at self checkout as the first person of the day. He's normalizing it. Meanwhile, if he had walked through the front door and people were already self checking out, then it's already normalized. See? So the moment Benton goes into a new area that hasn't been used that day, almost immediately here's a normie to normalize the activity. And what do they get out of that? Right? It's just, again, waking dreams, surrealistic, unreality, deja vu all over again. And unfortunately, I missed an opportunity. What's up, Glenn? I missed an opportunity to go to Whole Foods. By the time I realized there was a Whole Foods nearby, while I was waiting to be dispatched on my next assignment, it was too late. I had not wasted, but enough time had gone by. Now, if I really was on my game, what I could have done was drop my trailer at the place I delivered because they wouldn't have known or cared. Some of that's just a judgment call. A lot of places ain't into that, but I could have dropped my empty trailer, went straight to the Whole Foods like 6 miles down the road or whatever. And then I could have gone 2 more miles to Walmart and still would have sat there and waited about 2 hours, which I don't mind waiting. It's fine. But the thing about that is in the Atlanta area, that's, hours, might have been 3 hours total. That's like 3 hours of just watching the traffic increase on a Friday afternoon. And of course, went right off into the 5 hour rush, 5 o'clock rush hour traffic, because that's how that works. And I think humans kind of need these, the human procrastinators, I think, sort of need this, an external pressure, which is like the brokers going home. They keep, almost banker's hours. They're going home. My dispatcher's, he's apparently going on vacation next week. So that'll be fun to see what they do to me next week. I guess nobody said, hey, you might want to plan out Jason's week before you go. But even that is like, well, we come in on Monday. All the brokers come in on Monday. And then, sort of everything starts happening, right? It's supposed to be a 24/7 world, and, all of these things. There should be, I hesitate to even say that, but there could be a means for him to have accomplished this, if not yesterday, over the weekend, right? And I'm not complaining. It's just, my deliveries, whatever time Monday, they're on an earlier time zone. So at that point, my day becomes about human beings dragging themselves in on a Monday morning, some version of the movie Office Space, just booting up their computers and sitting in their chairs and just sort of spacing out, or, having their conversations, whatever bit of slap and tickle, water cooler type activities they got going on down there, whatever all of that portends. Meanwhile, I slept in and started my day 10 minutes later because I was still doing my morning routine, and I've already been driving for 10 minutes, and it's 4:35 a.m. How about you? Should be, again, barring the unforeseen, should be a straightforward, fairly easy day. Going to drive at least, I would say, 517 more miles. That'll probably be it, but maybe not. We'll see. Might do another almost 100 beyond that. Haven't decided yet. Although now that I think about it, if I'm gonna end up running on recaps, I might be better off doing less. This will be the second day of my recap hours once my 70-hour clock's gone. We'll see. Can't say I'm bummed that I missed my chance to go to Whole Foods, but it's interesting to see, just sort of the idea of the heaven or hell realm manifesting as a hell realm, and the spiritual protection and guidance and all of this sort of serendipity, right? If I had been paying a little more attention, my needs could have been met. I don't know. Well, needs might be a little strong, but either way. And then just the bizarreness, the surreal nature of, as often as possible, I do my shopping, right when they open at 6 a.m. So the later in the day I go, the more it's just, I won't even say normies, just maybe what would you call them? Normies who are trying to do the so-called right things by your people who are trying to work conventional jobs, and maybe it's their lunch break, or maybe they're off on Friday or whatever. Just the longer the day, the farther you go into the day, the more it's hard to say regular folks, but well-to-do. Here we go, well-to-do. Law-abiding citizens, not well-to-do in having money, but respectable. What society might consider respectable, I guess, be a way to say it. And they've turned into a bunch of weirdos. Like, well, what about you, Benton? Yeah, I'm weird more or less since day one. That ship sailed long ago. Definitely got some good rest. So overall, pleased with sleeping in a bit, even if it caused me to choose to sort of rush through my morning routine. That's fine. KarateAttorney.com. Just billboard after billboard after billboard out here telling people how to get a settlement check. Hey, all you got to do is go get in a wreck with a big rig, and They said, well, what do you mean? Oh, it doesn't have to be the big rig's fault. These lawyers will figure out how to sue somebody. Now, the more the damages are, the better. The actual, the more horrific the wreck is, of course, that helps. I saw this trailer company, this company that manufactures trailers, they had a $430 million judgment against them. I know people go, well, that's crazy. How could that happen? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, anytime that happens, it almost always gets, an appellate court will almost always adjust that amount downward. So I think it immediately got cut down to about 120. And at that point, it's like, okay, now you get to negotiate. Basically, it just starts negotiations with the insurance companies. So what I read was that Wabash was the literal trailer manufacturer. And of course, it wasn't the accident wasn't even the driver's fault. But, in America, again, that which makes an enemy of what I am, what I am being, among other things, justice itself. Well, now we have the realm as the lack of the characteristics of what I am. So the realm doesn't know anything about justice. So people say, what do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. And what did the trailer manufacturer do wrong? Well, they didn't do anything. Lawyers were able to argue in court, and a jury decided to, smite them. And what ended up happening was, in the negotiations, Wabash ended up writing a check for $30 million, and then the insurance companies covered whatever else they had to cover that they couldn't argue their own way out of. While also, they're going to want to continue to insure Wabash, the corporation, I'm sure. So some of it is, negotiations. So, and again, this is back to this idea of corporate fascism, the merger of the corporations and the government. Some of those ideas based on the writings attributed to Benito Mussolini, fascist dictator of Italy during World War II, or before and during World War II. So, the merging of all of these institutions into just one thing that could be referred to as the state, right? So Wabash is the state. The insurance company is the state. The bank, whoever's providing the financing is the state. You get into bonds and all of these things, legality. The trucking company, that's another corporation. And then the individual humans themselves, right? Property of the state. As far as the state's concerned, the human can say, well, I'm not property. Well, here's the thing is, what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life, among other things. Yeah, that can't ever be possessed. That can't ever be property. The human dead flesh can. What do you think render unto Caesar means? Let the dead bury the dead. The flesh is dead. Sin is dead. Anxiety is dead. Fear is dead. It's all death. Death warmed over. Animated death. Death warmed over. A protracted experience of death while accounting for waking dreams, surrealistic unreality in the context of time, space, location, place, delusion, illusion, vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transaction. Act accordingly, and that's not advice. That's just good home training, as some might call it. Home training. Proper home training. Well, what about there is no proper home in this shit fest, shit storm? Heaven or hell realm. mostly manifesting as a hell realm. And if you ask me, Christ showed that, a big part of the Christ story, in my opinion. Because in the context of the Bible as written in the English language, the one that people use today, Christ traveled to both the underworld and the heavens and got to both places from here, whatever this place is. I mean, that seemingly says a lot about the nature of the place. Christians, and I don't know that I'm talking to Christians, so it was a rhetorical Christian or proverbial. And remember, no credit given for Benton's abilities creatively. Right? So I can listen to my own high-level discourse as an audience member while spontaneously delivering these remarks. At times, I'm like, yeah, man, I sound like a buffoon and a hick and a bumpkin to some extent, but and then while simultaneously annoying some folks with, oh, well, he's trying to sound smart. No, some of us have a vocabulary, and this is how we speak. It's not a try hard. I want to sound smart. It's I read a whole bunch of motherfucking books, and I know a lot of motherfucking words. Right? It's not a try hard putting on airs. But yeah, it's to recognize that, and this is where we get to the concept spoken about many months ago on the streams. Cheer the level up, and recognizing that as I was leveling up and have leveled up, mind, body, and spirit for years now, progressing and growing, changing, evolving, which is really just unlearning and uncovering, remembering what I actually am, in the first place, if that's even the appropriate way to think about it. And that this world, this realm will never acknowledge any of Benson's achievements ever. So you want to talk about, you can talk to me about pride, arrogance, ego, all you want. I've dedicated myself for years now to undertaking a process where I will never, ever, ever be rewarded or credited for. And would have understood that fairly early on. And continue to do so. Now, it's deeper than that. I finally figured out, spiritually, because of the master that most of these folks serve, they're not allowed to credit my achievements. That's where you get the Mr. Miyagi's and others who I won't even name. That's where you get that. That's where they come from. Now, if they know or don't know that they're serving their master by spiritually attacking Benton, do you think their master, why would their master care? But see, why are they out of the picture now? Why don't they come here anymore? Now, maybe they do in other forms, but it's because those attacks no longer, whatever slight bit of a foothold they were getting in the past, now they don't get any. Now there is no foothold. So I'm assuming they've been sent off to other environs to attack different folks spiritually. Demons, do your worst. Those demons did their worst, and I leveled it up, knowing I would never get cheered. Now, there was a bit of a time when it was like, well, wait a minute. How come I'm not ever credited for these achievements? Oh, that's not allowed. And meanwhile, have you considered my servant Job? It's like, hey, this is what Benton is in the first place. So, one with the most super intelligent power source and force of love and creation. That's its own reward. Why does he need to be recognized within the context of this place, a world of death and a game of lies. See, that's your so-called ego. You give a fuck about that? Never have. Fuck out of here. Aha, down to 3. See, down to 3. This ain't. See, some of them don't want to hear it, and this is. I'm telling you, man. Here's when I know I'm leveled up again. Is when I go live and it's 0, and then maybe it's one person. Depending on who's available, and then maybe maybe they need to go do something, and it goes back to 0. Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's headed that way, folks. It is headed that way. Don't get it twisted. Way station open? I don't think so. Nope. What up, mental pancakes? Good to see you. And then I'm sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Almost not paranoid, but almost. I was thinking, things have been going, my way in trucking, and kind of thinking, well, what's going to go wrong? But the reality is, I've been put through the ringer already on this job. I've already been through the ringer in a way. So maybe this is my reward for persisting through a whole bunch of foolishness and nonsense. Basically, 2 straight months of foolishness and nonsense, more or less. And it is an interesting negotiation process of the company getting the maximum out of me that I'm willing to do, while it's my job to train them into, well, here's what's going to make me quit. If you keep doing these certain things to me, I'm going to quit. Just only do those things every once in a while, please. Thank you. As long as it's limited. I don't. Yeah, did I have hours left on my clock yesterday? I sure did. Well, actually, I didn't, because only if I did a split break. But hypothetically, if I had to, I could have driven like 4 hours last night. It's like, yeah, if most of the time I'm going to the truck stop, it's my bedtime. I don't want to hear nothing about it. So leave me the fuck alone. Thank you. They're figuring it out. But when they need me to get the job done, I will shut the fuck up, do my job, and not complain. And I get it. There's no such thing as good credit, really. It's in some way, Benton ends up being treated as if he's guilty for the things that the other drivers do. It's like, yeah, I understand what the other drivers do and they don't do, but I ain't them. And they ain't me. If I didn't really like living in a truck, none of this would be happening anyway. But the money's nice. I've got 10 G's saved already, which I don't mean I'm planning to save it. I mean, it's 10 G's that I don't have to touch in the short term. Of course, inflation's eating away at it. The weakening dollar. Let's think about the dollar. A strong dollar is not desirable across the board. Americans, historically strongly identified with certain aspects of America, and the military might is part of it, but then you get into the strength of the dollar, the currency, the economy, right? And people are like, "Oh my God, inflation, cost of living." It's like, yeah, what do you think the Canadians have been dealing with? I haven't heard a lot of complaints out of them. So, like with all this mass migration, and now I'm starting to see something about these Somalis in Minnesota pulling scams and all this. It's like, hey, man, the U.S. military went to Somalia, and the next thing you know, there's Somalians all over the U.S. Some of them are concentrated in certain areas, and then now I'm to believe that they just got it in their head to start committing systemic level fraud. I don't know, man, or maybe somebody put them up to it. What do you think? It's hard to imagine just willy nilly going to another country and then just sort of, more or less immediately defrauding the fucking various systems. Almost like they were invited to do these things, perhaps. I don't know. But to me, it's not the relevance of, oh, look, well, now Trump's going to fix it and it's all coming out. People are waking up. Oh, it's none of that. It's the system for its own purposes. This is what it's decided it needs to do to continue to perpetuate itself based on John Nash game theory optimal mathematics, which is the system operating to play all of the various governments and corporations and groups and factions. It's playing them all off against each other, and it's doing it mathematically, strategically, right? And a lot of this ties in with Kaczynski's writings, what was he again? John Nash was a genius level mathematician. What was Kaczynski? First and foremost, a genius mathematician. If you wanted to describe him just based on, like, this is his thing, this is his wheelhouse, genius mathematician. And there ain't a whole lot of those folks, lest we forget. Now, surely these were, patsies of the system in some way. And we look at, Kaczynski record. Well, John Nash ended up being schizophrenic, and, who knows what they did to him at the level of mind control. The system. There's a reason Russell Crowe starred in a movie about John Nash. If anybody hasn't seen A Beautiful Mind, I don't know that I recommend it, but probably worth a watch to realize, oh, Russell Crowe plays a person that this is the one guy that the system says mathematically invented or discovered the mathematics that runs all of society. So this is like your next version of Nikola Tesla, more or less. That's why it's important to watch the movie, in my view. Because in the so-called truth community, Tesla's a towering figure in certain ways. I'm not sure people have quite gotten around to figuring out John Nash or even Kaczynski, although, Kaczynski is talked about way more than Nash, certainly. I hardly ever hear anybody bring up Dak other than yours truly. So when Bobby Fischer, the greatest American sportsman ever, and you can tell me chess isn't a sport all you want, that's fine, but uh, you know, beat the Russians who were team playing him in chess, that's some form of it's game theory optimal. It's mathematics. Now it's also a lot of memorization and understanding, what the opponent has done and various, other situations. Being able to memorize, you know, when Fischer's playing against Boris Spassky, they both have they both program their minds with as much data as possible on the history of how these people have played in the past. And in order to know that, they need to know what all the other high level opponents have done as well. So in some ways, Fischer was his ability to memorize was higher than others. What this guy's doing. Maybe he needs to get over. I don't know. Got blue lights up there? He might not know where he's going. Welcome to Chattanooga. Somebody, I forget who it was, said they were going to Chattanooga this weekend. Home of the world's fastest internet. Well, that's pretty cool. I like that sign. Tennessee welcomes you. Apologies for the dead air. Make sure I take the proper interchange here through the interstates splitting. There's a truck in front of me that I don't know what he's doing. Not sure he knows what he's doing either. So I'm going to pass him, but I'm waiting until we get through all of these interchanges. I think, yeah. All right. Yeah, here we go. Pass him now. Because that's the thing about, I rolled up on him going quite a bit faster, and it's like, well, if he's trying to get into the other lane to take the exit because he needs to get on the different interstate, it's like, yeah, well, I could just cut him off. But what if just everybody cuts him off? And now it's like, how does he get into his lane? Well, so I just slowed way down and got behind him in case he needed to take the exit. So that's me being, considerate. That was the most likely thing he would have been doing. I think he's just out of it. I will say, when they first started this so-called crackdown, I was still seeing a lot of foreign drivers all over the place, and I'm seeing way less of them. And I don't want to get into the politics or the personalities or the Trump talk, but uh, now what I'm seeing is something I've suspected all along, which is especially these Eastern Europeans. Most of them speak English. It's just I don't think they want to talk to, especially somebody that seems like a bozo from Arkansas or whatever. So they pretend not to understand what I'm saying. Because now, and they don't know. And again, some of them are fully legal anyway. But as we've seen, the government apparently it'll just scoop up whoever it decides to scoop up. But a white person who's able to speak English, even with a heavy accent, they're probably not going to get fucked with too much, I would think. So now when I'm like, hey, man, how are you? They're at least trying to give a proper, even if their accent is so thick, they're at least attempting it. Versus in the past, it was just acting like they don't know what the fuck's going on. Because I'm like, yeah, I've talked to enough Eastern Europeans in my life. Y'all know, most of y'all understand a decent amount of English. You know what the fuck I'm saying. I ain't stupid. Reminds me of I happened to run into this just absolutely gorgeous Hispanic woman in a dress, like to go out for the night in El Paso. It's like in a hotel that Greyhound had put us in because our bus got something happened with our bus. I don't even remember the. Well, I do remember the details, but I won't get into it. But I think what happens is it gets construed as she's so hot. I guess she just gets used to men talking to her here and there. But my thing was more of the just, she was so done up, and it's not inappropriate to compliment somebody who's done up like that. But she tried to pretend not to speak English. And I'm like, listen, lady, I don't care if you blow me off, but I can tell you speak English. Come on. She tried to give me the no Inglés. I'm like, bullshit. Bullshit. I think we were on an elevator. So I kept it, I didn't get aggressive, but it was like, nah, I was basically like, no, you speak English. But fair enough. I understand. It's because the guy I was hanging out with was a bozo incel type. I think if it had been just me, she just at least would have accepted the compliment and moved on. But I thought that was funny. It's like, no, you speak English. I could tell just by how she said no English that she spoke English. And she liked to be complimented, especially in their culture. Like they want to be complimented. It's like, yo, lady, I'm not trying. Number one, I don't have the money. If you're a high priced call girl, I don't have the money. Clearly, fair enough. Number two, I'm not stupid. The fact that I've been riding a Greyhound bus, uh, you know, ridden hard and put away wet in some way. I'm just complimenting on how classy and um, I noticed fashion enough. It's like, yeah, this is, the way she was dressed, the way she was accessorized, the way she did her hair, the way she did her makeup. Like it's a whole package. Like I'm appreciating that, not, because I think women get annoyed sometimes because she's in her sweatpants and she's at Starbucks first thing in the morning, and she feels kind of gross or whatever, and the next thing but then the guys can't stop paying attention to her because of her body shape or whatever. It's like, yeah, lady, she's treating me like I'm that guy. Like, no, I'm not doing that. So I'm noticing compliment, and I don't even. By the way, the fact that I even felt compelled to give her a compliment in the first place, I don't even normally do that. But it's funny, the whole knowing glaze. It's like, yeah, lady, I'm just, again, what I said. Why do we need to, why are we just lying to each other? Blow me off in English. Blow me off in Spanish and I'll understand. I don't care. You think she couldn't have blown me off in Spanish with a tone of voice and a fucking facial expression, right? Like, this is a universal language to some extent, knowing glaze. Give me some credit, lady. Goodness gracious. This is what they think of us, fellas. Collectively. Why am I guilty? Because these people are bozos. Don't know how to interact with a gal. I know how to keep it moving. The doors of this elevator are about to open, and we're never going to see each other again. And if you think I'm going to be breaking my neck to get a look at you as I walk away, you're crazy. But, thank you, by the way, for something she had absolutely nothing to do with. Insane amounts of physical beauty. So I'm attempting to compliment the part of it that she has nothing to do with whatsoever. Or sorry, that she does have something to do with, rather, her choice in clothing. Such her skill and again, it's almost like an artist at a certain point. I may not look like it or sound like it, but Benton's a bit cultured at times in a context. A bit, not a lot, but a bit cultured. Reminds me of Quentin Tarantino's movie Death Proof. The things that people don't notice that I noticed, which was I think that was Lebanon, Tennessee, and Quentin's from Tennessee, although I think he spent a lot of time in California growing up, but he's at least familiar enough with Tennessee. But so the model chicks, the stunt chicks in the movie business, they're out there for a movie shoot or whatever, the hot chicks. And they go into the gas station, and the guy working at the gas station figures out who they are. He can tell, just from how they present themselves, and he sells one of them, and they're broke, and he sells one of them a copy of Italian Vogue for like $20 or something. It's like, what the fuck is a gas station attendant in Lebanon, Tennessee doing with a copy of Italian Vogue? Well, that's Quentin. That's actually Quentin sort of writing himself into the story. That's at his age, that would have been if he was in Lebanon, Tennessee, working at a gas station. Because there wouldn't have been no fancy dancy movie store for him to work in like he did in Los Angeles. He's still Quentin, even if he's in Tennessee. Like, yeah, those people exist. course, I wouldn't have ever tried to read Italian. So that's just another part of it. It's like, yeah, well, I don't think I'm going to try to translate Italian. But I would have looked at the picture. You think old Benton didn't pick up a Vogue magazine here and there? Because here's where you get into the repressed homosexuality in the so-called truth community, especially with the MAGA types. Because I remember being a young person, and maybe every once in a while, as we got into the teenage years or college, there'd be a GQ magazine. It's like, motherfucker, I'm reading Cosmo and maybe Vogue. Why the fuck would I read GQ? Like, it didn't even make sense. Now, yeah, every once in a while, a particular article might catch my attention, and I read a lot. It's like, what the fuck? Why would I read that when I could read? I mean, I read Cosmo just about every month. It's like, oh, that's and I liked Sex in the City when that started on TV. It's like, yeah, but I like women. I mean, I don't know. I want to. It just becomes kind of this weird thing. It's like people might make fun of me, but from my perspective, it's way more sus to be reading GQ than me reading Cosmo. It's like, yeah, I'm dating a girl that she reads Cosmo, and she's not quite as attractive as well, I mean, in a way, put a bag on her head, she's as attractive as the women in Cosmo, and the same age as the models, more or less. So yeah, what? Why do I want to read GQ? I didn't understand it, but I, understood even by then whatever was going on with me, and whatever, again, you're just getting into garden variety sexual preference and all of this. It doesn't even bear talking about at this point. But again, the major thing to me there is the repression. It's like, yeah, certain people will not acknowledge that they're looking at certain pictures and that they like looking at those pictures. Like, yeah, I never picked up a GQ because I'm like, hey, I want to see how these fellas look in their suits. It's like, well, I have suits. I grew up wearing a suit on a weekly basis. Like, I'm not that going on with the guys. What do they look like in their suits? Who cares? But I'm also not like scared of the idea that, hey, man, I've noticed that you like looking at guys in suits. Like, yeah, I do. If that's what I was into. But then when I got into lifting weights and all of this stuff and start looking at some of the bodybuilder type material, and it's like, eventually, the bodybuilding.com forums and all of this and other forums on the internet back then. It's like, eventually people are posting pictures. It's like, yeah, it's a bunch of dudes looking at shirtless dudes, right? It's like, at what point can the dude no longer just stop lying to himself and be like, yeah, I spend a certain portion of every day looking at other dudes that don't have shirts on. But, what level of denial is that? You know what I mean? Like, why even bother denying it at that point? It's just, that's crazy. But, I've had gay friends most of my life. They are way more inclined to read GQ than Cosmo. I was reading Cosmo, so I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Not a particularly great magazine, by the way. I read a lot of things back then, whether they were, you know, regardless of their merit, uh, you know, as literature. Even Playboy, read. Yeah, I'd read some of the Playboy articles, sure. Hmm. Although I figured out pretty quickly, me and old Hugh Hefner did not have the same taste in broads. So I really never was a big Playboy guy. Larry Flint, that made a little more sense. A little more buxom, right? Buxom broads. And nowadays, can you even find like an actual woman, like without a bunch of tattoos? And look, she can do whatever she wants. I would prefer that she. And by the way, ex-wife number two had tattoos. I wasn't a fan. But, it's not a deal breaker, but um, whatever happened to just regular old broads. And man, this BBL is. And I've historically not been a big fan of breast implants, but these BBLs is just, it's a fucking menace, man. Absolute menace. If I want to rationalize maybe noticing heavier girls a little more these days, it's like, well, at least there's a chance that it's actually her ass, right? Especially these Latinas, it's, almost 100% BBLs at this point. Not quite, but almost. Good God. Is there a fucking factory somewhere that they all go to get God knows what pumped into their asses? This is crazy. I'm out. Not a fan. Not a fan. Uh, I saw it came out where there was a social media video of Rob Reiner's daughter uh, asking him if he would pay for her BBL, and then of course and maybe he is this out of touch because he's like, "What is that?" She's like Brazilian butt lift, but I don't even. I find it hard to believe that he didn't know what that was. But either way, maybe he doesn't or didn't. And so, what I think is funny is it's interesting to look at these ideas of Nick as like failure to launch, and he was mollycoddled, and I see that term repeatedly in these YouTube comments, mollycoddled. But then why nobody views the daughter that way? I think they bought her a house. She lived in a house like up the street. I don't see any evidence that she did anything to. Now, maybe she rented it. I doubt it, though. If her parents own in that neighborhood, and a lot of these people, once they get to a certain level of wealth, especially, and they just start buying up, if they like where they live and they're not planning on moving, a lot of times they start buying up whatever's around them as it becomes available. I mean, why wouldn't they, right? So probably Rob and his wife scooped that up as soon as it became available, and then she's living there. So while people are talking about Nick and failure to launch and mollycoddled and blah blah blah, it's like, yeah, but what about his sister? She's just like living in a house up the street, trying to get and she knows how to manipulate dad and I've got two sisters, so I watched this happen. My dad had a good amount, he had a good income. And basically, if my dad was in today's money, my dad made $1 million a year. Not every year, but his best years in today's money, guy made $1 million a year, which again, not a crazy amount of money, but it's enough to, write a check for a European luxury car, and it's enough to pay cash for a house if you want to, and all this. Not year one, but if a person is smart with their money, right? But by the way, I didn't grow up rich. We weren't rich. It's just my parents, if they needed to buy something, they had the money to buy it. Really, is what that comes down to. I've got my famous the first new leather basketball I ever managed to get my hands on got stolen like a week after I got it. My parents were just like, "Hey, man, I guess that sucks, buddy. Well, anyway, maybe you'll get another one, but we're not buying you one. We're not." A lot of people that immediately would have driven right to the store and bought their kid another basketball. Because Lord knows I was upset about it. It's like, no, man. The fact that we could buy you another one, that has nothing to do with it. The money's not the point. You shouldn't have let them. I just couldn't foresee that somebody was about to steal my basketball if I gave them a chance to steal my basketball. But that's exactly what happened. That was a high dollar item in my world. I wasn't going to save my fucking allowance and spend $20 back then on a bat. It's $100 in today's money. $100 for a quality basketball in today's money. And that's what's interesting about the devaluing of the dollar and the inflation. Most people can't do that math. Like, I remember what $20 used to be, right? And so I understand that today's $100 bill is basically what a 20 used to be, more or less. Like, yeah, man. So the fact that a basketball is probably still $20, I'm assuming. If you just wandered into the store and bought a leather basketball, I don't know, maybe 30. I haven't priced them, but I'm just guessing. So it's not the same price. It's way cheaper than it used to be because of the value of the money. The currency is not worth the same. So it's actually way, way cheaper than it was back then. If people want to romanticize the past, it's like, I don't want to go back to not being able to have electronics. But there's electronics in the world, but I can't have them. I don't want to go back to that. Why would I want to go back to that? I was lucky to have a decent stereo system that was cobbled together from whatever my dad had left over when he bought his hi-fi system. And then, whatever I could just sort of get my hands on. Beyond that, once I started working and making my own money. Now I'm on $27 or $20 earbuds that sound just as good as, my stereo ever did. And, trying to think, headphones were pretty much, I don't think I got my hands on a decent set of headphones. I was probably 16 years old before I ever got a decent sounding pair of headphones. That would have been what? Yeah, 91 or 92, I guess. People, they've forgotten. They've just totally forgotten what this stuff used to cost. And so, just like that Yuri Bezmenov, that KGB guy from the Call of Duty commercial, and he's talking about that he could take an American to the Soviet concentration camps under communism, and that he could tell them this is happening in your country, but they still won't believe it until he said, basically the military boot smashes into their balls, right? Like that, they won't believe it until then. Like you'd have to actually transport them back to 1989 and say, okay, this is what you asked for. Enjoy yourselves, and you know, uh, check in on them a week later, and they're like, yeah, this shit sucks. I'm like, yeah, I know. I remember 1989. It did suck. Now, certain things about it were way less shitty than 2026, but yeah, 1989 fucking sucked, and it was fantastic in certain ways. Like the Batman movie with Michael Keaton came out in '89. Batman 1989. It was a cultural phenomenon. It was badass. I remember every person I knew went to the theater and saw that movie. It's the only movie of my lifetime that everybody I personally knew went. I'm talking about my grandmother, my mom, my dad. You know, maybe my dad's parents didn't see it. Maybe. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost certain my grandmother saw it in the theater, not on DVD or VHS, actually, in the motherfucking theater. Huge, man. Huge. 4 showings a day. I'm sorry, 4 theaters at the local mall. And I don't know, 3 or 4 showings a day. Just packed for months, dude. At least the first month was 4 theaters. And that shit's over. That will never happen again. Right? And I'm sure like Titanic and Avatar was some version of that, but maybe Jurassic Park. But that was even Jurassic Park was '90s. What are we even talking about? When did Titanic come out? Late '90s, early 2000s. I don't even how long has it been since you could go back to some movie hit theaters in Podunk, fucking Arkansas at the mall, the thriving mall, right? With a modern state of the art at the time movie theater. It's over, man. None of that shit's ever coming back. Now, yeah, maybe different versions of that, but it really is Ready Player One. If anybody's seen that, dude, we're all living Ready Player One. It's just it. What do I do on my day off? I just lay in my bunk and Ready Player One it through my phone. If I was into video games and if I was into all of this other stuff, I have the money. I'd have whatever VR headset, whatever computer. I ain't into that stuff anymore. I know me. I get addicted to things. I have no desire to get addicted to video games. But yeah, if I wanted to, I could get a computer and spend a fucking weekend cobbling together some fucking playable version of SimCity 4, right? And then they want to try to tell me that I'm not INTJ, and well, we're all a little autistic bit. It's like, yeah, sure, but how come when the ambulance goes by, I'm the only one with his fingers in his ears, and why am I, if I do play a video game, it's, going to be something like SimCity 4 or fucking, if I'm playing a first-person shooter, you know, Quake 3 Arena, because that's the one I learned how to play, and I'm not really interested in learning any of this new shit. I'm old. I'm old, man. Just be 50. Fuck. Got 50-year-olds playing Call of Duty, which is fine if that's what they're into, but again, the NPC normies, imagine just starting to play fucking first-person shooters at the age of 40 or whatever. It's like, yo, man, you don't really have the reflexes for that shit at 40. I probably do, but not to be any good at it, just to not be embarrassing. But, then again, I was when I was at Walmart, I happened to knock something off the shelf, and whatever it was, I caught it on the way down. Cat-like motherfucking reflexes. That's something you're born with. It ain't Maybelline. Born with it. But yeah, 89 sucked, except for what was awesome. And people talk about, oh, social isolation, and nobody wants to do this, and nobody wants to do that. And, people don't get together. Well, that's you, right? You can say you want to do all these things. If I could put you in a time machine, and it's like, you're just like hanging out with me and my buddies, but it's 1989 Benton, and it's like we're losing our minds because Batman's hitting the theaters. But then you still, if you're there with us and you still have the same mentality of 2026, we're not going to want to be around you because you really going to be excited about Batman 1989 in the theater? Because remember, we're fucking losing our minds for months. Like, can you believe this is really going to happen? Like, I remember that anticipation. I remember the excitement. It's like, oh my God, it's really going to happen. We couldn't fucking believe it. And that movie holds up. That's people make fun of that. That's 2026 is, if you mention the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton, people just think it's a joke. It's like, I don't know, have you seen it lately? It's a pretty fucking good movie. I'm not an idiot. If I had gone to the theater in 1989 and they showed me trash, I would have understood it was trash. But nowadays, they're showing people trash, and half these people can't tell the fucking difference. And some of that is, people like me had to go to the theater, and then it's like every person I talk to for the next 2 months, I'm like, have you seen Batman? Have you seen Batman? And if not, it's like, oh, you got to. I don't care if you never go to the movies. I don't care if you don't give a fuck about comic books. You must go see this movie. Right? It's a cultural phenomenon. Like that shit's over, man. It's done. So people remembering that they just, I don't think they even remember what they liked about the 80s and the 90s. They just remember that they liked it. Well, half of it was we was young. That's half of it, right? Did I like waiting around all week to because at some point it's 120 minutes is coming on MTV, and I this is like, there's no internet, yeah, I read all the music magazines the moment they come out, uh, I had some exposure to college radio, but not a lot, and that was hit or miss in my area. It's like, yo, man, MTV's 120 minutes. Like, give me my alternative music. And then also, why did they call it alternative music? Because I got treated like a fucking weirdo on some level just for being into cool shit. Let's not forget that. Some of that was like, what's wrong with this guy? This is, you think I went to school on Monday and everybody in my school watched 120 minutes? Most of what's going on now with the social media, they're all looking at the same shit, right? And you got your niche groups here and there, but meanwhile, my dad, if he goes back and discovers something from the 90s, like at a certain point, uh, he was got into porno for pyros. You know, Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction. It's like, what do you think I was watching on MTV's 120 Minutes and back then? So Jane's Addiction. Been caught stealing. Actually, that they just showed that on regular MTV, but it was that style of music. You know, weirdo, fucking fringe stuff. You know. And then gradually that all sort of became popular. You know, Nirvana kicked the door open, obviously. They weren't the only one, but they were the big one. Green Day was another one. I was listening to Green Day in Arkansas in the 90s, and nobody knew who the fuck Green Day was. This wasn't like, oh, Benton's cool. Well, yeah, I am, but that's not the point. The point was, this was while I was, me and my friends skateboarding, and at least once a day, somebody drives by and yells skater fags out the window. Like, just to listen to Green Day and try to learn how to do a kickflip was to be treated like a homosexual. Like, for real. Like, just people have no concept of this anymore. You think you're going to go back to 1989 and let your freak flag fly? Good luck. And that's the thing is, people don't even understand that they're freaks. Y'all are freaks. By 1989 standards, y'all some freaks. Hate to break it to you, every single fucking one of you is a freak by 1989 standards. Every goddamn one of them. Weirdo, whether you know it or not. So yeah, go hang out in 1989, see how that works out for you. Good luck. We weren't, and I'm never liked the Grateful Dead in the first place, but you couldn't listen to the Grateful Dead where I grew up solely based on the name because of the hardcore Bible thumping Bible Belt notions of, well, how could anybody ever be grateful to be dead? I'm not kidding. There was culturally, you could not listen to that music. One of my classmates' brothers had a Kiss album where they had the devil horns. That was a controversy in the community. The fact that he owned that record and didn't seem to give a fuck if anybody knows, or was that AC/DC or whatever? Whoever that was with the cover was, young men with devil horns. That was literally a controversy. And I'm not here to say that was good, bad, or indifferent. I'm saying, like, as a layperson, anthropologist, sociologist, psychologist, you have no fucking frame of reference for what that time was like. And it's okay, but to romanticize it is an error. I remember what it was like. I don't want to go back to that because I remember the shit that sucked. It's like, no, I want to pay $20 in today's money for earbuds, which is about, what do you think? Today's $20. It was fucking $5 back then. You could not get anything for $5 back then to listen to. Maybe a transistor, like a AM transistor radio at a garage sale, maybe. Even at that point, they're like, fuck it, I'll just give it to my kid instead of trying to get, now I'm going to haggle with somebody at the fucking flea market. Doesn't even make sense. Nothing. You could not go to the store and buy anything technology related for $5. It's all kind of stuff I can get on Amazon for $20. A person could go to Walmart, get a $40 phone, either get wired headphones. So if they want, if they actually want to listen to decent quality music, they could get some wired headphones or even earbuds, whether wired or wireless, either way. Talking about less than $100. So for $20 in 1980s, 1990s money, a fucking computer, right? And then for, if you just went and got the prepaid whatever Walmart offers for unlimited, no more than $50 a month, right? $10, a mobile pocket computer with high fidelity audio in your motherfucking ears, with more or less all of recorded music available to stream, unlimited, for $10 a month, for less than $100. Like, this is insane. There was no equivalent in the 80s and 90s. Nothing. There was nothing. You ever try to listen to an 8-track after cassettes came out? You know, yeah, records sound all right. You got no portability. 8-track barely. You can't separate the good from the bad, folks. And so this idea of living below one's means. So yeah, I really wanted a computer. A computer was $3,500. My father absolutely could have taken me and bought me a $3,500 computer. There was a 0% chance of that happening. It's zero. So, and that's part of what the so-called MAGA types, they think that's what they're defending. Are you really going to tell me that in today's culture you're going to deny your children whatever, you know? And then so looking back on it, people might say, well, that ended up being your career, at least to some extent. And so now it would be this idea of needing, you're supposed to support the kid and all of this. None of that existed back then. None of it. And you might have had some parents who would have wanted to buy their kid a computer. Well, guess what? They don't have the money. And they can't get a credit card and buy the computer. By the time consumer credit became available to go get a computer, we were already into like Pentium 75s and stuff. I remember because one of my friends got a Packard Bell on like the Sears store, whatever, which is pretty much the first computer I ever really got to put my hands on. It was my buddy's Pentium 75 megahertz Packard Bell. $3,500 on a fucking 86 or whatever. It didn't do anything. You really couldn't do a lot with it. Now, your actual nerds could, your geeks and your nerds. I wouldn't have been able to do much of anything with it. And it just psychologically, I just don't think people, once their mind has adjusted to 2026, I don't believe they just don't have the ability to sort of transport themselves into those previous times, but then account for what did not exist back then. there's no way to create it or take it with you. Right. Fuck all that. Fuck that. I remember being a grown adult in my 20s and just like went and visited my parents. And, I was running around at night doing whatever I was doing. And, maybe went to a party locally in the town because I didn't grow up in the place where my parents moved to where I graduated high school. And I remember, I don't know what happened. I probably drank the night. Wasn't a big drinker back then. So I probably got drunk the night before and smoked weed and all that. And I know I slept till like noon, and my dad got offended and like came in the room and basically like made me get up. Just offended like culturally. Meanwhile, that motherfucker sleeps. When I was around him, he was sleeping until like 10 a.m. Like, motherfucker, wow. The same guy that was incensed that I was, wouldn't just wake up first thing in the morning. And that's, I think, part of the reason after he got out of his third marriage, and after, I was hanging out with him when I was real sick initially, then I went into truck driving. Part of the reason why when I'd come visit him, it's like, yo, man, I'm awake at like midnight. And then this fool wasn't even up and aware of what was like noon every day. It's like, all right, well, we start hanging out at noon. We got up till about 3 p.m. and then I'm going to start looking for my bedtime because this, liking to go to bed early and then my own schedule. It's like, how is this the same person? And it's not because he's old. It's that cultural obligation to sort of be respectable, It's like, who cares? Well, there was a lot more caring about appearing respectable in 1989 than today. Way more. Right. And that would have been, trying to think of when this would have been like 98. My dad's like offended because why? Because why? I stayed out late last night and I'm sleeping it off. Like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, he was pissed off. I'm just looking at him like, all right, man, I'll get up, but I was confused as to why he even gave a shit. And he's probably just mad about something else. Like, yeah, I understand that as well, but come on, man. It's crazy. What up, Landry in the chat? Hey, I see you've been doing a lot of homeless stuff. I don't know how much and again, I'll make it all about me because that's what I do, but I've been homeless since about 2012. I don't know if you're aware of that. Like, for real. And I did like 6 straight years of street level homelessness at a certain point, almost uninterrupted. And this is not bragging. This is look, none of this is like a good thing, but just so you know, I do identify as homeless. It's not, when they hire me to go into truck driving and I show up, whoever deals with me has some notion of, oh, we've hired a homeless person on some level. If they know, if they're halfway with it. Not a criminal though. I do. I'm a little different than a lot of the homeless people. Not no mental illness officially. No no drug addiction. No no engagement with the criminal justice system, thankfully. Which, of course, is a choice on some level, mostly. Not entirely, but mostly. Now, are you up all night crew or are you early morning crew? That's the question. I'm guessing you're already been to sleep crew, not been up all night. Of course, what, 5 a.m. Central Time, right? Or am I on? I don't even know what time zone I'm on. I think I'm still on Eastern. Maybe I'm not. Wait, where was I yesterday? Yeah, I was in Atlanta yesterday. That's Eastern. I don't fucking know. Anyway, good to see you, sir. Yeah, the homelessness is an interesting topic in 2026. Because most of my homeless time, it was way more accepted than it is now. It seems to be, from what I'm seeing, it's way more prohibitive. You know, it wasn't that many years ago a person could, as long as they weren't complete morons, they could sleep in their car. Cops didn't. Again, some areas are strict no matter what, but you know, I think a lot of places it's, you know, sleeping in vehicles is way less tolerated. And I never liked it personally. I never was a fan of sleeping in a car, but I got pretty good at camping. And I don't mean out in the wilderness. And I traveled. Yeah, have you run into any of the dirty kids? And I don't know how much Landry knows about the homeless culture and its various subcultures. And I can provide some general homeless information. The number one rule in homelessness is never accuse anybody of stealing without direct evidence. That's number one. Number two is do not ever feed anybody's dog without permission. That's the two quickest ways to get oneself in trouble. Oh, and wait a minute. Uh, it goes along with number one, but don't touch anybody's stuff. Right. So much so that even I got in trouble one time because somebody had seemingly mislaid their property and I secured it for them and they were angry that I touched their thing. So effectively, if you're not friends with the person, don't touch anybody's stuff. And in fact, I got punched in the face by some old black man in downtown Houston when I took an Uber to the Greyhound for truck driving. And he was homeless, and I don't think he realized that I was homeless. And he was doing this thing where they just go grab people's bags and try to solicit a tip. And I was incensed that he was touching my stuff without my consent. So I just treated him real rudely, and he motherfucker punched me in the face. Which I mean, good on him because I'm pretty aware of the fact that he did manage to sort of trick me, and there was nothing to the punch, so it was just like, just kind of looked at him like, really, this is what we're doing? Motherfucker punched me in my face. But then it was like, oh, he doesn't understand that if he knew I was homeless, I guarantee he would have touched my stuff. No fucking way. But anyway, what's up, JT? See you, partner. Long time no see. OG, OGJT. That's right. Don't forget it. Oh, and I'm not calling Landry a normie because I don't know him, but uh, most people, especially if they're not street people, if it doesn't pertain to you, do not bother. Just keep your nose out of it. So, like, I think a lot of normies I've seen, and especially people who ain't city folk, and I'm not city folk, but I grew up in an actual small city. I'm not country, even though I might sound it. And again, I'm not. I don't know enough about Landry's upbringing or experience, but um, of course, one needs to be observant of their environment, so it's to simultaneously notice whatever underworld activities may be happening, but to pay them no particular mind. Right? It's like, yeah, whatever those people are doing in that corner over there is whatever they're doing. Like, where I've noticed a lot of people who are unfamiliar to certain cultures that, they want to just stare at it. It's like, hey, man, you can't just, they're not going to just let you fucking stare at whatever they're doing over there. Yeah, you can look over every once in a while, sure. But come on, man. And by the way, you can do whatever you want. It's like, you're going to wonder, hey, where'd Benton go? It's like, well, I'm not going to stand there next to somebody who's staring at whatever's going on in the corner. Like, yeah, I've already noticed they're doing something in the corner. What are they doing? I don't know. I could guess what they're doing over there, but it's none of my fucking business. So I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, I could guess. I got my suspicions. None of my fucking business. But anyway, I'm not trying to lecture anybody. Just things I picked up here and there over time. I've slept on the sidewalk, went to my job, and then went right back to the sidewalk that night for like a whole month. We're not proud of it. It's just until somebody's experienced that, they don't have any idea what that's like. No clue, no frame of reference. You can't even imagine it. Just logistically, you can't imagine it. Just the logistics of such a thing. But I will say overall, most of the homeless content's pretty fucked out. But you know, an interesting content creator can make anything interesting. So that's there's an audience for the content certainly, but as a genre, I'd say it's fairly fucked out overall. But I've got a little bit of stuff I watch. There's one hobo traveler. Oh yeah, my bad. The Dirty Kids, the train riding types with the big backpacks. That's what I did. I didn't ride trains, but I was the big backpack guy for many years, living out of a backpack, big hiking backpack. I pretty much mastered whatever that is, and burned out on it. Pretty much lost interest. But yeah, 10 miles a day on foot with 35 pounds. Eventually got it down to 35 pounds. Pretty much everybody starts out way too much weight. And then even 35 is a lot, but it's what's funny because the same 30, it's not the same 35 depending on how you pack it. Knowing how to pack it makes a big difference. Weight distribution. Clothes weigh the most. We're not accounting for water and food because we're not carrying food. we're carrying water. Why aren't we carrying food? Because you can't camp, you can't urban camp most situations. Uh, you can't have food wherever you're sleeping because there will be animals. And I don't like to be wakened. I don't like being awakened by animals. First, that means no food. No food at camp. You're like, oh, string it up in a tree or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's so the bear doesn't come eat you. That's not, you know, it's, even that's not really a thing. If you're fucking, I was pitching it. I was camping out like in the woods next to the Walmart. Like, I mean, come on, we're not, whether or not it's bear country. Just your urine's going to attract a stray deer here and there. I've been woken up a couple of times to a deer sniffing me through my tent. I snuck up on a deer one time. Wasn't my intention, but which is interesting. Because I'm assuming that would be if I just wanted to sneak up on a deer. I'm assuming that would be fairly difficult. And then sometimes I see coyotes like in LA, and I'm like, "Hey, coyote, how come I saw you before you saw me? Like something's wrong here, buddy." And humans are like the apex predator. I mean, they really are. Think about it. Like that's happened enough times where I'm almost like lecturing the coyote. The coyote's looking at me, and I'm like, "Hey, buddy, aren't you supposed to? You're supposed to know I'm here before I know you're here, right? Like, what is this? Like you're fucking falling down on the job, coyote, or maybe I'm just that good. Why do I know there's coyotes around and they don't know I'm around?" There's coyotes in LA that know how to wait for the signal. They know how to wait for the light to change so they can safely cross the road. Think about that. Oh, but your dog is smart. No, it's not. Nope. No, it is not. I don't mean you, the listener. One's dog. Oh, he's so smart. No, he's not. He's a fucking idiot. All right, bear with me. It's bathroom break time. And we made it an hour and 47 minutes. That's pretty good. Oh, yeah. Oh, business. What are we doing? What are we doing? All right. I'll be back in a few. All right, we're back. Hello, hello. Yep, we're here. Yeah, it's definitely a shame that I missed my chance to go to Whole Foods yesterday. Got quite accustomed to having fruit. I haven't found anywhere else that sells proper fruit that I can get to anyway. And Amazon no longer, they won't ship a lot of these things to an Amazon locker anymore because they want you to go to an Amazon counter at Whole Foods. They will ship the prunes to an Amazon counter at Whole Foods where they also sell prunes. Ship them tomorrow. I ordered almost like $185 worth of stuff, mostly supplements. I splurged and got some fancy boy chaga with some, I forget what else. They market it as a powder. They market it as a coffee substitute. I can't be the only one. It's not what I would call it a struggle necessarily, but just, you know, whatever's involved in even properly operating one's own dead flesh, like, to be able to go to the restroom properly. Talking number two, trying to get into detail. I mean, the prunes help. There's no panacea, but they help. Not like everything's fine. There's a lot to it. I don't know if these live streams help. Chilled out. But, I like getting froggy. Get my energies up a little bit. I don't mind chugging water if I'm not actually thirsty. I think I'm hungry. I'll bid y'all adieu. It's 2 hours in. Yapping for 2 hours. Goodness gracious. Thanks for watching.